Welcome back to Telling Tall Tales the Right Way. I am your host, Heather Ostianvi. I am still here with the incomparable Cindy Rodriguez Constable, and we are talking about Babel from R.F. Kuang. You can catch up with our conversation in the first part if you missed that, but we are going to keep talking about it as if there has been no break. All right, here we go. So what we're discussing was the way that you destroy a culture is by taking away its language. And what Babel does, and what Babel's doing, and all the people who work for Babel and who want to rape, pillage, and explore and exploit rather cultures around the world, is they're stealing their language to create the match pairs in silver, and then silver is being mined. Where is it being mined? They say it, but I can't remember now.
I don't recall.
Okay, I'm gonna
where it's being mined. Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a Google. Hold on.
Yeah,
where it was?
I'm like, I don't remember where it was mined.
In Babel.
I read it longer ago than you did. So.
Being mined. Hold on. It's the silver. China, India, the Caribbean, and Latin America. There we go. So they're stealing the languages from these areas. At the same time, they're mining the silver, but what they're doing too is it's classic colonizer behavior. We will give you X and make you a partner if you allow us to just plunder your land and all of your resources. But we'll make you a partner. We'll do that. And
not an equal partner.
Not an equal partner, but a partner. And guess what? They lie.
Yes.
They lie about all of it. All they're interested in is exploiting the resources, the land, and the people to expand the British Empire and make the rich even richer. Now, they do talk a little bit in the book about the sections of London that are run down and yucky. They don't spend a lot of time there. Like R.F. Kuang, the author, doesn't spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad of it too, because it was already like so, the narrative in the story is already so rich.
Yes.
I don't know that we needed to spend some time in the London slums. But I do think it's also really interesting that, oh God, excuse me, that, part of what we were talking about too is that, where did I say it to you? Oh, yes, in sacrifice, right? So I know I'm jumping ahead, but so justice and injustice, belonging, isolation, things like this. As the story continues, we learn more about Victoria's isolation and how Robin is so surprised that her and Letty are not best buds like him and Rami are. But then there's going to be cracks in his and Rami's relationship also, because Rami wants to take things down from the inside. He's like, I am with it. Let's get this going. Let's tear it all down, right? Let's tear it down. And Victoria's kind of like, ooh, I kind of like that. I'm kind of down with that. But at the same time, like, don't we need money to live on? Like, what are we
going to, right? Because they're getting a stipend from the institution, like from Oxford, like a scholarship, and they get a monthly stipend for their food and their, whatever else they need. And so for Rami, for Robin, for Victoria, the question becomes, okay, we know that this needs to change, but again, we're ousted. And Robin being more challenging because he's part of the English, he's half, he's biracial, right? Yeah. So he doesn't know what to do with his own identity. And then, but Rami and Victoria, they're not biracial, right? So they are feeling the full oppression, I guess, if you will. They don't have that same identity and belonging, struggle. It's more a socioeconomic question for Victoria, because what will we do, right?
Yeah.
So am I being sent back to France, or am I being sent to Haiti? Like, what is going to happen? Or will we just die? Or and then for me, like, the colonialism obviously so ever present. But it also begs the question on revolution and violence,
yes,
right?
100%.
Because the book wrestles deeply, I think, with the ethics of violence as a means to freedom. But, any oppressed population or nation will tell you that, appealing to the better nature of your oppressor is a losing game, right? And that's part of that imperialism, that imperialistic or that white supremacist culture, because immediately the oppressed will be like, oh, look at how violent they are. Nobody's going to listen to you because you're just spewing hatred and you're doing all of this. And meanwhile, you are crushing me with your boot on my neck. And now you're mad about how I fight back. And so it's just this big struggle throughout the book to see in Robin.
And it's an interesting thing that the British Empire is not equally criticized for the violence they inflict.
Right, which is standard.
Yeah, it's just what it is, right? You're all savages. Like the rest of the world is savages. And it brings to mind, I thought about this in the shower this morning, because, this is what you think of when you're in the shower. But I don't know if you saw Shogun last year on Hulu.
No, I did not.
So Dwan Johnson and I, we did an episode of Telling Tall Tales the Right Way, and we focused on Shogun. And it was interesting because the Japanese use a word anjin, the anjin, which means savage, right? And it reminds me of, and we're not going to talk about this right now because you're not done, but R.F. Kuang's trilogy about the Poppy War trilogy.
Yes.
In that, because this takes place in a land that's not necessarily China, but it is.
Yeah.
The Hesperians, when the Chinese characters or the Sign
Guardians, right? The Sin
Guardians get their first look at the Hesperians. They are repulsed because the Hesperians are white. They have pale skin, light eyes, light hair, and and what repulses them the most is that you can see their veins, right? Like I can see my veins, right, under my skin, and so they're repulsed by that. But it's an interesting juxtaposition when you go back to Babel, because while the British or the Americans also in real life think about savages, they don't look at their own savagery towards the people that they're oppressing. They just think that they deserve it because they're not really people.
Yes.
Right? And
they are less than. They are othered.
Yes, everybody's othered. If you're not white and British, you are othered. They don't even really respect the French or the Spanish or Italians very much. If you are not white British in Babel, you are definitely less than, and you are those people.
Right. You're a resource. You're for consumption, usage, and then you're tossed away.
Yep. And so the story continues. So Robin continues to be caught between, do I really want to be with my brother? Who then, when he learns that he's his brother, he is like, holy crap, that's my brother. Right? Like, what? Yeah. So, but he doesn't feel really in any like affinity toward Griffin. He's still very conflicted. But then there's also, as the story goes on, and when they go through their studies, there's these like social interactions they have. They have run-ins with Griffin's Hermes Society, and they almost get caught a couple times doing some shady things. But then comes the trip to China. Mm-hmm. And this is where I feel like the book builds to this point, and it's like at the top of the hill, and then all the action that comes just keeps rolling from this trip. Like it's, so the trip to China, you describe it because.
Well, Robin's trying to like remember, right? Like, he's going back to his homeland, and a professional level, frames it as research, right? So this is a research trip, but the deeper function is more revelatory for Robin, as he goes there, because he has to confront the past, right? So it's his first time going back since being taken as a child.
Yes.
So then he's trying to reconcile in his own mind the boy he was with the man, I use the term man loosely, that he's becoming, because the cultural and linguistic dissonance hits him really hard.
Yeah.
Because this is a point in time where he really, really has to grapple with, he's not quite Chinese. Right. He's not quite English. Yep. He's kind of adrift between these two worlds. And as he's trying to like confront that and see like it doesn't look how it looked before, how he doesn't know how to feel, and it's still, he's still a kid. So, and these are huge concepts, right? And then he begins to see the mask, if you will, of the scholarship.
Yeah.
He finally starts to realize that Babel's intellectualism is not neutral.
No,
even though it's presented to him as neutral, which is why he's struggling initially, because the Institute isn't studying languages and cultures out of respect or curiosity. They're doing it to extract what they can, to extract and exploit. The translation, he starts to realize, is used to power the imperial engine and not to preserve any form of cultural heritage. Yeah. So I think that's the first time he's like kind of smacked right in the face with that reality. Yeah. To that point, he had been able to kind of like,
he kind of had one foot on both sides of the, right? He was kind of doing this.
But I could rationalize it a little bit more, prior to going, right? But I think at this point it was like a moral reckoning. He's witnessing firsthand that the British are exploiting the Chinese resources and their people. It can't be theoretical anymore. It can't be something that Griffin is just telling him, or that he's just hearing whispers of. Like, he's seeing boots on the ground colonialism happening, like in his face, right? And so it's really gutting for Robin, to fully question whether, Babel can be reformed from the inside. Because he's like, oh, we can make change, where Rami's like, burn it to the ground. And at this point, I think he finally realizes, like, okay, maybe we can't make change. And
well, and I think too,
what does that mean? I feel like it's so profound that he realizes that his like linguistic gift could be the very weapon that's needed to destroy the system.
It's the first time that he really reflects on everything that's Griffin has told him, and realizes that Griffin is right probably about 90% of it, right? But this is also when they're in Canton. They're helping do whatever business needs to be done, but then they have to leave quickly. I forget why. But
revolution starts to kick up, or the villagers are fighting back, or something. There's a skirmish of some kind.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily involve them directly, but they're like, we got to go. And so they get on their ship and they're starting to sail away. And while they're on the ship, this is where Professor Lovell admits that he sort of admits that he's Robin's father, but in a very but then he knows that Robin's been talking to Griffin. He sneers about Griffin like he's a failed experiment. And this is where Robin loses his shit. Oh, I'm not going to swear on this.
Whoops.
Whoopsie. Sorry. But this is where, so what we learn prior to this incident of them going to China is that there was a girl who was working with the Hermes Society, and she and Griffin were supposedly very close. And he killed her. Yeah. With a bar of silver. With a bar of silver. And, it took me a minute, honestly. This is just my visual thing. So it's kind of neither here nor there. But when I was reading it, I pictured the gold bars, like from Fort Knox. That's what I thought the silver was, but it's really, they're small. Yeah. They're tiny.
I initially pictured like little tuning forks, like little sound machines is what I pictured initially, because they talk about the vibration and the feeling or whatever. So that's what I was picturing when I was reading the book.
I did picture them smaller. Gold bars from like Fort Knox. Like I thought they were these big silver blocks, and I'm like, they must weigh a ton. How can they just like flit about with them? But then I'm like, oh no, they're small. But Griffin has given this bar of silver to Robin. And when Professor Lovell pushes Robin too far, Robin shoves the bar in Professor Lovell's chest and basically busts his whole body open.
Yeah.
He dies on board the ship. And they still have like weeks to go before they get back
to hide the body. And all
they can't really hide the body.
Yeah. They're just like, what do we do?
Right. So now they say like he's seasick. He's got some dread, infection, something.
Yeah. So he can't come out and whatever and talk to people, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Now, the good thing is that the captain and the crew of the ship don't really care. They're like, you guys are actually a burden on us, so we don't care. Do it.
What you're doing. Yeah.
Whatever, right? Yeah. So, but what that does is it brings the 4 students, Robin, Rami, Letty, and Victoria, into more of a conspiracy. But this is when Letty starts to break off.
Yes.
So,
and for me, you know, what I started to see from that perspective was basically Letty's performative allyship.
Yes, 100%.
Is what that was for me at the end of the day, because she's blind to her own privilege, you know, and he represents the well-intentioned liberal white woman, if you will. You know, it's like it's that trope. And 100%. This is where you see that she was a performative ally, because when the rubber met the road and she needed to be there for her friends, she gave them up for her own safety.
We're going to speed ahead a little bit. So, because there's a lot of details in between, and it's not that they're not important, they are, but for the sake of this episode, like finishing the discussion of the book, otherwise we'll be going on for another hour.
Oh, we could probably talk for hours. It's such a great book.
I know, it is such a great book. So the death of Professor Lovell kind of sets off on the ship, kind of sets off the rest of the action to come for the rest of the story. What ends up happening is they decide to fully join the Hermes Society, all 4 of them. Robin, Rami, Letty, and Victoria. They decide to do it. They run away from school. They leave school, and they are in hiding because now it's come about that Professor Lovell is dead. People know it. They suspect Robin, and they suspect the foursome of doing him in, which, you know, they did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And so now they got to go into hiding. They got to leave school. And so they're in hiding with the Hermes Society. And one day Letty's like, I'm going to go for a walk. And they're in a well-protected, like it's an old library. And so, but there's like, they have a little kitchen set up. They have meals. Like, it's like a little army stronghold is what it kind of is. But Letty betrays them. Letty betrays them to the authorities. And so Robin ends up going to jail. Griffin breaks him out. Griffin and some white boy get into it. They shoot each other. Now Griffin is dead. I forget that white boy's name, but he wasn't very important. He was just kind of like the foil.
Yeah,
like
he was like a side character. Yeah.
He was like the foil for Griffin. And so now Robin and Victoria and Rami go back to Babel, and they conspire with a couple of professors who, unbeknownst to them, are also part of the Hermes Society.
Yeah.
And they conspire to bring Babel down, and not just in a figurative way. Like, they're going to collapse the building. But the only way to do that is
somebody has to stay to activate.
So and it's a very elaborate spell, and the structure of the spell they have to weave to get this done is so well written. You can almost like feel the weight of their despair, right? It's just, and they build barricades, and the people from the town are actually kind of with them to bring Babel down, because the people of the town have been exploited by Babel in Oxford for 100 years.
Yeah.
And Letty even comes to negotiate. She's like, you don't have to go down this path. Like, you can get out of this. Like, you can still like live your life. And Robin is like, I'm sorry, what now? And when Victoria confronts Letty, because it's Victoria and Robin that go to talk to her, Victoria's like, you never saw what was actually going on with me. And Letty was like, you didn't see what was going on with me, about who I had to fight to get here. And my father wouldn't pay and all of this sort of thing, all because I'm a girl, even though I'm smarter than every boy in my family. Right. And Victoria's like, yes, poor you for being the white girl who gets to go home to her rich family and whatever. So in the end, they decide who's going to people. They have meetings amongst themselves. It's Robin, Victoria, Rami. Oh wait, Rami's dead by this time, isn't he?
Yes, by this time he has died. Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that, you guys. I'm sorry. Oh, I forgot that
Rami died. Rami died, which, really just kills Robin.
Yeah, I mean, it destroys him.
It destroys him.
Yeah, it really destroys him. He was stabbed. Wasn't he stabbed? Mm-hmm. He was. Okay.
Oh no, he was shot. Was it by is that who let these shoots? Oh my gosh, I can't even remember.
I thought she stabbed him.
Isn't that terrible?
Oh, she might have shot him. No, she shot him. You're right. She shot him as she came through the door with the troops to the stronghold.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing? And then she was like, you need to get out of the way. And he's like, what are you doing? And she shoots him. Mm-hmm. Right. So, okay. So sorry guys, we had to kill Rami. But that's what destroys Robin, and that's really the last straw for him. He's like, I'm going to bring Babel down no matter what it takes. And if that means sacrificing myself, I'm good with it. Yep. And that's what he does. So it's him, I think 2 other students.
Stay.
Mm-hmm. And the 1 or 2 professors. And they each have to take a position on the floors of Babel. And they construct these pyramids of silver, and then they synchronize their watches. Remember when we on TV would be like, synchronize your watch. So they synchronize their watches, and at this precise time they start chanting the match pair of languages that I forget what language did they use? English and Latin?
English and Latin, I think, is what they ended up using.
Yeah, so they discovered the match pair that would bring the tower down. And that's exactly what they do. They bring the tower down on top of themselves. So Robin, a couple other students, and a professor to sacrifice themselves to bring down the tower that powers the British Empire. Mm-hmm. And I know it's stupid, but I really was hoping that Robin, like there would be a resolution where Robin lived. I really, really wanted him to live, but at any rate.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I thought so too, but the way they ended that chapter, I'm assuming he does not.
Oh, he totally dies.
Yeah.
Because he's on the ground floor.
Yeah.
So as the tower comes down, all the other floors are collapsing on top of him, Yeah. So he but in the last chapter, Victoria rides away. She rides away. She's the lone survivor of this group that took over Babel. And she knows that she has to stay hidden somehow, because if Letty finds out that she's alive, Letty
will come for her. Mm-hmm.
And that's when she pulls out the note that Griffin had left for Robin and says, there are more of us, and there's a list of names. That's the list I referred to in the first episode, where we know what that means. That means you have Griffin and Robin have more half siblings somewhere in the world.
Somewhere in the world. Mm-hmm.
But Letty, but at this time, not Letty. Victoria doesn't know that.
Doesn't know. Yeah, she doesn't know what it means.
What did you think of the ending?
I mean, again, I was hoping that Robin would live, and no. And so I guess for me, it almost felt like, okay, maybe there's going to be, something else, right? Yeah. Like, is there going to be a spinoff? Is there going to be another? I mean, it says this is a standalone book, but are we going to have now a book from Victoria's perspective? Like, where does she take it? Or will it come, where maybe she takes us deep into the Hermes Society, and we get to see, Like what all is going on there? Because my question is, okay, they brought down Babel.
Yeah, what's the fallout?
But what's the fallout?
What's the fallout?
What next? Like, it's going, for me, any great imperialist nation, it's going to be a setback, but I don't think that's the end.
Right.
They have to restart their program, sure, but do they now strike back harder against the places they've colonized, or do they learn anything? Like what I need to know. That is the resolution.
I also want to know these things because even though I feel like I'm satisfied with the end of the book, like I'm satisfied that Victoria got away and we might not know every detail of her life following her escape. I'm okay with that because when I think about like what would happen with the British Empire after the collapse of Babel, good and God bless it well. They are not like, oh darn.
Oh well.
Oh well. No, there are going to be violent reprisals because now they're going to be rooting out every potential chapter of the Hermes Society. And they're going to crack down with an authoritarian, bigger boot on the backs of the necks of the people they're already oppressing. Right? You already know that.
Because they were aware of the Hermes Society, but I think they saw them more as an annoyance.
Yeah, like a fly.
And
right?
a threat. Right? Like, oh my God, they're constantly stealing a book or stealing a bar of silver. Let's just be rid of them. Because they set up all those booby traps trying to catch them every time they came in or out.
Yeah.
But they didn't really see them as a substantial threat.
Right.
And like even when they first, when the siege first began, they were taking down the bridge in London and, slowing down operations for the British Empire.
Yeah.
And even then they didn't want to back down. They were like, okay, we're going to come in here and squash you because this is not going to work for us.
Right.
And so, and I don't think that they thought that they would take it to the extreme of toppling the tower.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think any sequel would be definite reprisal.
Yeah, I definitely
and yeah, swift and unquestionable.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, that, ladies and gentlemen, was our discussion of Babel. And if you have read this book, I really want you to leave comments on what you thought of it and the themes that stuck out to you the most. And if you were happy with the ending. So leave that in the comments. And Cindy, thank you for joining me again.
Absolutely. So fun.
When you're done with the third Poppy War book, we'll talk.
Yes.
I read the
I'm like 50-something% through, so I've got
excellent.
I think my Kindle says I have about 6 hours left on it. So as soon as I finish it, I will let you know. I mean, I'll probably write a Substack on it anyway.
So we'll definitely have a conversation. Maybe not televised, but we'll definitely talk about it. But thank you for joining me to talk about Babel. As soon as I saw that you had read it and then I was reading, I was like, oh, we have to talk about this. So thank you for that.
Oh, no, sure. I can have you, come on over in my Substack and we could do a live and talk about the books that are there too.
That'd be great. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us.
So much.
Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're catching this. Take care.